HAF, and while it's definitely not plain, it isn't really an invasive style either. The front I/O ports are very simple: USB, audio, and power and reset switches, and the 912 does have an optional 3.5-inch external drive bay with proper cover. I peek behind the front panel and all of the intake areas are fully covered with dust filters, including the drive bays. Users will be able to install either two 120mm fans or a single large 200mm fan at the front. The top exhaust points are much the same, either a larger 200mm fan or dual 120mm fans. The case also has specific support for mounting a 240mm radiator internally or externally. On the side panel, we have the classic HAF style and logo, as well as a 120mm or 140mm fan intake port that won't interfere with any CPU cooler. Jumping to the back, 120mm exhaust fan, I/O area, 3 tubing holes, 7 expansion card slots plus 1 vertically positioned, and a bottom mounted power supply. And so we move into the interior. Down at the bottom of the case, there's a fan filter underneath the power supply, which sits on rubber feet. Also, Cooler Master has included a specific 2.5-inch SSD bay that supports 2 drives and can actually be removed if you want to install a longer power supply. There are 2 3.5-inch drive bays at the bottom and 4 more in the removable rack. Removable, you say? Yes, the middle section actually slides out, which you can then leave empty or reposition the cage so your drives will sit parallel with the case. At the back, the 120mm exhaust fan, an appropriately large CPU backplate opening should be good for any motherboard, and plenty of cable management spacing all around the outside of the motherboard tray. There are 4 5.25-inch drive bays, but only one has the toolless adapter. I do kind of miss the traditional Cooler Master button system, and I don't exactly know why they only left one. In behind, you will see there is plenty of room to work with. The drive bays have been pushed in, and the motherboard tray actually sits on studs to push it away from the back panel, leaving about 3/4 of an inch to work with. And so the best part comes when we finally get to install our system into the HAF 912. Most cases in this category are pretty awful. There's very little room, the layout is basic and frustrating, and the material is so cheap and so flimsy that you often come away with a few extra battle wounds. This case is a break from all of that. Installation is easy, there is a surprisingly large amount of space, corners are rounded, and overall construction is very solid. It just really doesn't seem like something you could ever get for $60. A quick glance at the accessories, the usual screws along with an SSD bracket and drive bay adapter, also a change to hard drive rails instead of the usual sleds. Now you'd think with a smaller tower there would be some difficulty with larger hardware, but not a problem here. Our quick test of the rather bulky Cooler Master V6 GT CPU cooler proved there is plenty of room for larger aftermarket heatsinks. As far as video cards go, the case supports everything, including the AMD Radeon 5970, though you will have to lose the hard drive cage. The 5870, however, will fit with the cage installed. And that wraps it up. The more I used the HAF 912, the more it became apparent what a great deal Cooler Master is offering to consumers. A lot of this stuff may seem pretty basic for a case, but rarely do you see it at this price. And even then, there is some a lot more expensive that still don't get it. Like the rest of the HAF family, the 912 has great airflow potential with lots of fan options, and it cleans up nicely with cabling. It's even going to work great if you want to get serious with water cooling. You can fit pretty much any hardware in here, and the case itself does look pretty good, but for some, it just may not be your style. That's it. That's the Cooler Master HAF 912. It is one damn good value